Hey guys, in this episode of On the Line, we're going to talk about one of my favorite all-time rigs ever, and that is the Texas rig. We're going to talk about two ways to rig it, using a bobber stop and using a offset shank worm hook, as well as a straight shank hook, like for flipping and pitching and things. And I'm going to show you guys the knots that I tie for both of those. I'm going to give you a couple knots for the offset shank worm hook, and I'm also going to give you what's known as a snell knot for the heavy duty flipping hook that I have right now. And that does make a huge difference in the way you're going to have a hookup ratio with the flipping and pitching. So right after this quick intro, we're going to get right into it.
That's a life of a fisherman you wouldn't understand, something you can't feel on dry land. Gotta get your arms way up in a cage and set the hook on smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. Gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a G-Loomis rod. I bet you like what you feel. Step on the deck, give it a whirl. Hello, welcome to my world.
So first off, what is a Texas rig? Well, a Texas rig is nothing more than, I assume, I haven't done any kind of research on it, but seeing as how it's called a Texas rig, I assume that originated in Texas. So it's just a bait of your choice. I use a ton of different baits. You can see here, this is a KVD rodent. This is a Perfect Plastics KVD rodent, and I believe it's called Magic Crawl. I could be wrong with that. I could be totally wrong with the collar. But the whole thing is that you have a weight on top, and you have some sort of hook, and then you have a weedless, usually, bait. So my favorite way to throw these things around my area, guys, because we don't have a lot of flipping and pitching opportunities really to throw into really high, deep cover, and that's where these style of hooks are going to come into play. Again, this is a huge hook. This is a 5/0 VMC. This is a heavy duty flipping hook. So as I mentioned before on my previous episode talking about Texas rig, which hooks to use, if you're going to be casting the bait, you're going to want to use this offset shank worm hook. And again, you can go back and check out that video there, but you can tell here that it has a little bend here, and that basically keeps your weight, or I'm sorry, your bait up on there. So when you cast this thing out, it's going the way this hook is designed, it's going to keep you from getting snagged up as much. So if you're flipping and pitching, if you're going to really close quarters combat with these fish, and you're throwing just right off the side of the boat, you're going to want to opt for the straight shanked flipping hooks here. So I'm going to show you guys here really quickly how I do this. I have a bobber stop right here. I'm sure hopefully you guys can see that little black thing there. That's nothing more than a slip bobber stop. I think I said a bobber float, but this is a bobber stop. So you can pick these things up anywhere. The tackle box sells them. To be honest with you guys, 5 years ago, I got on the Wish app. Yeah, I know Wish, right? Because you never know if you're going to get it or what it's going to be like. But I found a company selling these bobber stops right here, which is nothing more than a piece of rubber, for I bought like 1,000 of them, or maybe it might have been 10,000 of them for like $10. It cost me like $6 to get them shipped here. So it was definitely a win-win for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that bobber stop, and again, a lot of people call it pegging. Don't Google that, by the way, because you're going to be shocked like I was. But anyway, right here we have the bobber stop, and I'll show you guys how to put that on there in just a second. And then below that I have a slip weight. And the reason I have this bobber stop on here, and it keeps the weight from going down the line, this is my reasoning with it. And again, it could be totally off kilter here. Again, I don't claim to be a pro, and I'm definitely not. But let's just say that this rod here is a piece of cover, right? If it is pegged on there or bobber stopped on there, when this thing comes over it, it's going to pull the bait and everything off of that log or whatever that you may be around. Now let's do this on an opposite thing here. Let's take the bobber stop way up the rod, and let's just do this in a secondary way here. It's probably gonna be tough for you guys to see this, but what happens is this weight comes way down the line, and what happens is, depending on how heavy of a weight, you can see the fulcrum that it's making on that bait. Well, as you can tell, it's coming right down that log or whatever I'm trying to get snagged on with the hook point. Well, we all know we're going to try to fish this thing weedless, but sometimes when you're pitching around stuff, the hook gets exposed a little bit, and that's going to cause you to get hung up, in my opinion. So that's why I use that bobber stop. Let's hop on here. I'm going to cut this really quick, and I'm going to show you exactly how to put on a bobber stop. I'm going to waste one here for your guys' pleasure. Next, we're going to talk about how to snell a one of the straight shank hooks for flipping and pitching, and we're going to show you the reason why you want to do that. So let's jump in here. I'll re-rig this thing for you. All right, guys, what you're going to need for this is some sort of weight. This is just I think this is a tour grade tungsten. I do have my own brand here that I'll be throwing. Eco Pro tungsten is a really good one. And the cool thing about a Texas rig is that the weight can be changed at any point, right? So, you know, that's the reason a Texas rig is so powerful, in my opinion. This is a 5/16 ounce. I throw all the way up to a 3/4, even 1 ounce, maybe even 1.5 ounces if I'm flipping and pitching. So we'll talk about that in just a second. So what you're going to do is we're going to talk about the offset shank worm hook right now. And again, these bobber stops always come on these little tabs here, and they have loops in there. Probably really tough for you guys to see. But what you're going to do is run your line through one of those loops, and you're going to pull that bobber stop off of that loop onto your line. Now, this thing is rubber. When you pull rubber really fast against things, it creates friction. So wet your fingers, move that thing up the line a little bit, and anytime you want to move that, definitely make sure you get it wet before you do so, because again, it will get hot and cause friction. Next is going to be your worm weight of choice. Mine right now is a 3/6, or that's a 1/4 ounce, sorry. And then I'm going to grab my offset shank worm hook. And again, this is really not about the knots, but what I'm going to do is I usually just tie the, I think it's called an improved clinch knot. Put it through the eye, spin it 7 or 8 times, back through the hole or the loop that you created, and then back through this main loop here. Wet the line, pull it down. And again, if you guys want to see these knots a little closer, let me know. I'll show you. Cut the tag end off. Again, pull the bobber stop down to your head of your hook. Now, to rig the bait, again, could be any kind of bait. You guys have been hear me talking about the Pocket Slim 3.5 from Net Bait. Love that thing. Worms, creature baits like this, Cincos. You could pretty much rig any bait that you want on this Texas rig and have some, success. So you're just going to pinch off a little bit of the worm, put your hook through there. You will put the hook all the way through. Now here's the beauty of this offset shank worm hook. You will turn the hook 180 degrees while you're pushing the bait up on that little lip right there. And then most people will just put their hook in the body of the bait like that. That is not exactly what you should be doing. Best thing to do is poke it all the way through the bait, make it lay flat like this. You can see that the hook is protruding there. And then take your bait and pull it back, like push it towards the weight, and bury the tip of your hook in that bait. I think it's called texposing the hook. Don't quote me on that. It's just what I've always said. I've heard that somewhere and picked it up. So you're just making it weedless. Now, this is why I showed you guys a second ago why I use bobber stops for my Texas rig. You don't have to, but I personally do it 100% of the time. Matter of fact, I use 2 when we're talking about flipping and pitching. So let's cut this off. I'm going to show you how to tie a snell knot on this. On this straight shank worm hooks, and I'm going to show you why it's important to do so. So I've cut this bait off. I have the hook off there, but you can see that I still have that bobber stop on there, guys. There's no need to pull this thing off every time. I'm just going to push it up the line a little bit, and I'll put this all the way against my bait here in a little bit, but I'll show you again why I use these. I'm going to have 2 on this one. I'm not going to put the second one on here, but you'll see in just a second. I want to use this big 5/0 hook here just so maybe you can see it, and I apologize if you guys can't see this. I don't know what the camera angle is like. I'm looking at a very small screen here, so you gotta kind of go with it. Now, with a straight shanked worm hook here, this one has bait keepers on there on the top. Again, this is a VMC, so it's going to be a little tricky to tie this the way I want to. If you want to start tying hooks like this, get you just a straight shanked worm hook and try to tie it with that, or straight shank flipping hook and try to do it with that. If you try to do them with these hook keepers, it's probably not going to go well for you for the first time. Start with a decent amount of line, and what you're going to do is you're going to feed your working end of your line from your rod down through the top of the eye of the hook there. You're going to get a decent amount, guys. You know, you use this to your advantage, especially when you are first doing this. Next thing you're going to do is you're just going to bring that tag end back, and you're going to create this little loop. Now, I'm going to pinch it back here with my left hand, and I'm going to take this tag end and I'm going to wrap it around that loop, not the working end, the tag end, right? So I'm going to wrap this thing around 6 or 7 times, making sure that it's going up towards the eye of the hook. Again, I apologize, you guys are probably not seeing this. So I'm just wrapping it 6 or 7 times, and then I'm going to take this tag end, not the working end, and I'm going to put it back through this loop that I've created initially. So I'm going to put that back through there. I'm going to hold on to the tag end with my left hand. It's probably backwards in the video. And I'm going to pull this up, and again, it's going to be kind of tough for me to get this over this these bait keepers here. So let me work on this for a second. Again, not the best hook to try to learn how to tie these type of knots on, but it is very important that you do tie a snell knot or a proper knot when you're flipping and pitching, because without I'll show you here in just a second. All right, so there's the snell knot. Now, when you tie this knot on here, what happens is you make a mistake like I did. So I'm gonna cut this off. Gotta have the weight first, guys. Gotta have the weight. So I'm gonna put this 5/16 ounce weight on here just to have a little something different. Again, I got a bobber stop up on top. I'm gonna put the weight on here right now, and then I'm gonna retie this hook. And when I get done, I'll come back with you guys. All right, so got the knot retied. Again, so now the thing about having a flipping hook or a flipping and pitching hook here, if you have it tied correctly, you can see how that hook kind of has a cant to it there. What happens is when you set the hook, it's going to have like a cantilever motion here where it's going to actually drive the hook towards the fish's mouth, which is going to cause you to hook up with more fish. Now, this is something that I just learned not too long ago from actually Mike Iaconelli, I believe is who it came from. But he puts a bobber stop on top of the weight, and then before he ties the hook on, puts another bobber stop on there. Because if you listen here, guys, this is a 5/16 ounce weight here, but listen. You guys can hear that. And that is going to cause detriment to your hook. It's also could cause your line to fray and things. So again, you can use pretty much any knot you want. I would try, you know, I also like the double San Diego jam knot, which I do have a video. Well, excuse me. I do have a video on this channel explaining that, so you can go back and search my channel and find that if you're interested in that. But that's the reason I use a bobber stop, and that's the difference between the different hooks. Again, you can tie a Palomar knot, double San Diego jam knot. I like the improved clinch knot as well, depending on where I'm fishing and what I'm fishing with, what line. But if I'm throwing a flipping and pitching hook like this, I'm throwing the snell knot. Really simplistic to tie. Go out there and find it online. If you want me to do a video on it, I will. And I know that wasn't an instructional video today, but guys, if this helped you out a little bit, understanding about how to tie a Texas rig and how to rig one, I'd appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. You know, just like everybody else trying to get to that next mark as far as subscribers. I have a goal of 6,000 by the end of this year, and it's not going to happen. I'm not, you know, that would take 200 a month subscribers. I'm right now about 70, so I'm realistically hoping for 5,000, but I'm setting a 6,000 subscriber goal. So maybe, potentially, that if I get to that 6,000 mark, then I'll be pleasantly surprised. But again, you guys know the deal. You guys can get out there and lean on them. We'll see you next time. on another line.